Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grave Matters. Thank you to Midnight Researcher, the man behind the yellow line tonight. Also, everyone sends your get wells to Raven. So joining me tonight is the Sleeping Wendigo, and filling in for Filia Noctis is Phoenix Fire. Hello, guys. Thank you for joining.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
That voice. So before we introduce our guest tonight, why don't we see who's in the chat? I see Director Void. Hi, Director.
I see Azarine Fox. Hello.
Hi, Azzy.
Hello, Azzy.
Glad
Hello,
you can make
Director.
it. Who else do we have? Oh, we have the Happy Jammer in the chat as well. Speaking of the Happy Jammer, he's our guest tonight. Hello, Jammer, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I very much appreciate it. Thanks, everybody in chat.
You're very welcome. And I see the Nevermore Collective. Hi. So,
who's that? I don't know who the Nevermore Collective is. We should check out their
right? Quick right, everybody, check out the Nevermore Collective. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. That's the same thing. Anyways,
Ring the bell.
yes, thank you. That's the word, Jammer.
Yes, ring the bell.
I see Pimp Demon just entered the chat. Hello, Demon.
Hello, Pimp
Hi,
Demon.
Hello, Demon.
Oh God, if YouTube demonetizes us because of that. No, I don't think they would.
We'll just call him Demon throughout the show. Too bad
Yeah.
our resident Derringer isn't here yet.
Daimon.
Damon.
Daimon, I
Damon.
like
There we
that.
go. I
P.
like
Demon.
that. Damon.
P. Demon, you're now Daimon.
Daimon. It's funny because demon actually comes from the Greek term daimonia, which is
Oh,
and it's sort of like
wow.
well, and it's not necessarily like a bad thing. It's like when people think of demons in a modern world, demons are like these bad things that people try to excise people from their bodies and stuff. But in the ancient Greek world, the term daimonia just simply means like lower level divinities, you know, like sort of representations of wind or rocks or air, right? They're not necessarily Zeus or like the higher gods in the pantheon, but the daimonia are just like everyday spirits that sort of occupy the everyday life of like your average Greek. So that's what daimonia means. Eventually in modern religious context, it refers to something different. But yeah, that's just a fun fact for you.
I love that.
Well, thank
I
you.
love learning. I
Appreciate
love learning
that.
something new every day.
That is very interesting.
So, Happy Jammer, again, thank you for being here. Can you tell us about your name? How you came up with it, your channel, and your content?
Oh yes. So as for my name, Happy Jammer, originally it was sort of like a catchy name to describe myself because I made the Happy Jammer moniker came originally as a YouTube channel. Originally I was a YouTube content creator back in my days of high school. I'm now in my early 20s now. But in the early years of like middle school and high school, I made a YouTube channel that was focused on Minecraft, on mob battles fighting, like so creeper versus zombie. I made an arena in Minecraft, and then that's basically what my channel was. But to some extent, I also grew up in the YouTube community, mainly watching horror, and that's where I got I'd say my exposure to horror content, mainly through Let's Plays of people playing horror games. Initially, it was PewDiePie, and then eventually Markiplier. I was a huge fan of Markiplier, to some extent I still am. And it was through his Let's Plays of specifically the SCP Containment Breach indie horror game that got me into SCP and SCP Containment Breach, and I got to learn how to mod the game. I've met the developers; they're nice people, and so
Awesome.
And long story short, that's how I got into the SCP modding community. Is through my inspiration through Markiplier, and then meeting with the developers, and that has been a fascinating experience.
That seems like a really fascinating experience. And speaking of SCPs, have you watched any SCP channels such as The Rubber, Dr. Bob? There's many other channels out there. Brain Went South. Any inspiration from them as well?
I have. For me, it was really more on the SCP gaming community specifically, and so my exposure has been mainly through those avenues. But I do look up to like many much more bigger SCP narration channels. The Volgan is probably like the most famous of that because if you guys don't know the Volgan, he's a big SCP narration channel, and he's most famous arguably for doing the various voice lines within SCP Containment Breach. His voice lines for SCP-049, the Plague Doctor, is voiced by the Volgan. And so
Very
And-
familiar with them.
Yes, very familiar. Yes, so he's probably like the biggest guy within the SCP narration community.
That
But
indeed.
I'm sorry.
No, yes, indeed he is.
Yes. But certainly, I honestly do want to get more into the actual field of the SCP lore because it's nevertheless fascinating, while at the same time extremely complicated and extremely, I would say, like morally ambiguous. Because the SCP Foundation is incredibly morally ambiguous. On one hand,
Right.
they're there to ensure that these anomalous or dangerous objects or beings or places are not exposed to the general public, because that could spell potentially the end of the world, because these are literally physics breaking supernatural phenomena that should not be exposed to the average person, because the moment you have an SCP breach containment, they're gonna say that it's a manifestation of, I don't know, like God's will, the apocalypse is coming, or like a lot of like people are gonna be looking at any breached SCP as some sort of like end of the world scenario, cause mass panic.
Right.
So the basic the fundamental reason of the SCP Foundation's existence is to contain that, to make sure that doesn't happen. And while that is a good moral conundrum, that is a good moral thing, it's also at the same time a moral conundrum, because in order for that containment to keep going, they have to do some ethically bad stuff. So that's where the Class D comes in. The Class D
Right.
are right. The Class D are within SCP lore these people who are on death row, and they're basically lied to and told like, hey, and you will do these community service on behalf of the SCP Foundation, and in 30 days you'll be released if you're on good behavior. A total lie. A total lie.
Right.
So so
Oh, you'll
so
be
it's basically
released, right?
Wait, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, oh yeah, they'll be released, all right.
Yeah. They'll be released into the arms of heaven. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
Right.
So
one of those SCPs that come to mind is 3000.
oh, what is that actually? 3000.
SCP-3000 is a gigantic eel that lives in the Mariana Trench, and they literally feed D-Class to it, so it produces a black ink substance, so they can use it to make anesthetics, to pretty much make people forget.
Oh wait, so the ink makes people
amnesia,
forget?
yeah.
Holy guacamole! Can we curse here? I'm not entirely sure.
We'll share the video with you after the stream. But I could see with your voice and just your name, the Happy Jammer, as an SCP channel. I really
Thanks, I suppose. Even though originally the Happy Jammer was not, it was really more of a Minecraft name, but we'll put that aside. Yeah, sure. The Happy Jammer. That's what happens in the Foundation. You're always happy and jamming.
Right.
Until 173 or 682 break out of containment.
Oh yeah,
I think you just
that's
forget it.
lovely. Yeah. They'll either snap your neck, or 682 eats you whole or something like that, and curses you to hell before you digest in this intensive like these are the things that you kind of have to worry about especially if you're a Class D exposed to these people or these beings or these places. Not pretty.
Not
I just
pretty.
love SCP, and I have to give my the credit for me being attracted to the SCP Foundation, its videos, to my good friend Azazel Kodak, because this dude's a walking encyclopedia. Let me tell you. You want to know a game? Ask him.
Demon,
I would like
Demon
to
says-
get these links to all these SCP channels. I do generally want to look. Because,
I will
again,
be glad to give them to you.
absolutely.
Demon says it's all worth it for SCP-999.
999. We all stand 999 in this house. It's such a cutie. Just-
Oh my goodness.
I would literally die for that one. True, Azure Fox.
I would say probably my favorite is 247, which is the kitten that's literally a Bengal tiger, but it just makes it look like a kitten.
Right? Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
nice.
I screamed.
Oh.
Oh my god, it screamed like a little. Yeah.
And
That's
and
like
here's here's the funny thing. It's like the SCP, even though a lot of these SCPs are obviously dangerous, right? A lot of these
Right.
SCPs kind of aren't really horror things at all. A lot of these are like seemingly innocuous items that just do physics or anomalous behavior, but they're not necessarily dangerous to humankind. I think an example of that would be SCP-458, which is a pizza box, and from a
Oh,
Little
yeah.
Caesars pizza box, and what it does is like you touch it, and it gives you like a type of pizza that's sort of like matches your personality or something, and that's all it does. Like it's just an infinite pizza maker, and it's
Yep.
I would say another one that probably would fit in that category is the Nerfing Gun. I mean, it don't do nothing unless you shoot something with it, and all it does is it just freaking in a human's case, devolves them. But if it's
Wait, it what?
technology, there's an SCP, I don't know what the number is, but they call it the Nerfing Gun.
Oh, I see. But what does it do? Does it nerf people? Like, oh, you got nerfed? Like, I'm not.
Okay, so if you shoot technology with it, it pretty much makes the technology unusable. If you shoot a person, it literally makes them go back in evolution.
Oh wow.
Wow.
What?
All right. Literally going back to monkey or whatever that meme is.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
So what
Pretty
about
much.
what about the pink dog one where the the little people, use the dog to travel around the world? I forget the
Corgi.
the corgi. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We will make sure you get the links to the rubber and to Dr. Bob because
Yes, I really want to take a look and actually read more about these SCPs because every single one still kind of makes you think because a lot of them are like fairly innocuous, right? As we've stated earlier,
Mhm.
but a lot of them kind of teach sort of moral conundrum crises that's sort of embedded within the document. Like when
Right.
when you're interviewing, when the foundation's interviewing staff, right? Or they're putting the Class D in experiments. You're getting the idea, like, okay, they're trying to, these are just safety procedures. It's just the procedures. You're just following the book. But the following the book includes, mauling these Class Ds into. So there's sort of like this weird thing when you're reading this article, and a lot of times these SCP articles don't have images on them, right? All it is just text of the descriptions of what's happening. And so in your mind, you're just thinking, oh, this is just regular top secret documents stuff, and things are redacted. And it sort of like removes the humanity or it removes like the emotion of the horror, and that makes it horrific in of itself, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
Another
Yeah.
really good one is the I'm a Toaster SCP. That's just
Oh God! Oh my God! Oh! Oh my God! Oh yeah, that one is. I was Toaster. I like I like buttered toast. I also
That
like
was
to put it in. That is a wild one. And obviously a lot of SCPs, a lot of these SCPs have been turned into games, and there are a lot of games for SCPs. Obviously, the most famous one is SCP Containment Breach, but there have been a lot of very good ones recently that I've been playing on my channel. The most recent one, is called SCP Secret Files, which is on Steam, and all it is basically just it's sort of like an interactive slash like you're basically playing as sort of like a member of the Foundation, and your job is to archive these documents, these files, right? And in this game, it essentially lets you play as you're archiving these files. So if there's like a situation relating to a certain SCP, it literally puts you into that flashback and you play as that person. And so there are a lot of SCPs that deal with this. Mainly, I think SCP 701 or 601, which is the SCP that is basically a play. It's like a Hamlet or Shakespearean style play where in the end you end up hanging yourself. It's the play of the Hanged King or something like that.
I was gonna say, isn't like the code name for that one like the Hanging Man or something?
Yeah. I believe that is what it's called. And in the SCP and SCP Secret Files, the game, there is a portrayal of that, and it is very, very graphic, and it's kind of in your face as to what it does to an unknowing person trying to contain this thing or trying to retrieve the black box. So it would be in that segment. But funny thing enough, that's why I'm mentioning this. You talked about the I Am Toaster SCP. To play sort of, again, this is sort of spoilers, but I highly recommend you guys play that game if you guys have the money. It's actually very good. But in the game, toward the end of the game, you get to a point where you are dealing with this toaster SCP, and and basically you end up forgetting who you are. You end up waking up in some hospital or something, and you proclaim yourself as a toaster for all time. Like the way that game kind of portrays it, it's sort of horrific, but at the same time, it's sort of humorous, where it's like, oh, I'm now a toaster now. And in some of the instances in one of the archives that you're trying to do with the SCP, with this toaster SCP, there are instances in which the person, upon looking at the toaster for like half an hour or something, they think that they themselves are a toaster, and they start doing things that would be conducive of toaster behavior. So in one instance, there is a woman who, a female Class D woman, a middle age, I think, who looks at this toaster SCP. She becomes then all of a sudden she has this notion that she herself is a toaster, and that, oh, I need toast. I need to toast things. So she goes to the cafeteria, eats a bunch of bread, and then she keeps eating the bread, and she's like, I don't know what's happened. Why is the bread not toasting? And a few hours later, they find her body, and she's filled with bread in her stomach. You can kind of guess how she died.
Oh my god!
Let's just say, in the video they say the human stomach can hold up to 8 kilograms of food. She had 10 kilograms of it in her stomach.
That is some wild shit. That is incredibly.
And then they made a comment about another individual in the same household as this one, who quote unquote inserted bread into them and passed away because of that.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the brave little toaster, but anyways.
Oh god. There is another one that is portrayed in the game too, where there is a guy who was exposed to this toaster. then he starts to become, or he starts to believe he's a toaster, and he starts to say that in the third person or first, yeah, whatever. I'm not an English expert, but he goes back into his cell, and then he thinks, huh, I'm running out of power. I need a toast. I need to get power. And so he makes a metal device or some sort of metal thing, and he's gonna attach it to himself, and then he's gonna go to the wall socket and put it in there, because he's thinking, oh, I'm a toaster. I need to power myself so I can toast. He does it. They find his body half an hour later. Like, you know what? Like, this is the sadistic, while at the same time humorous part of that SCP. And I think the SCP Secret Files game portrays that very well. You can go read the article if you wish.
That is very hilarious. I remember I was listening to that video just today, and I was like, who in their right mind would have came up with this?
I mean, it's someone who has a creative imagination, clearly.
Exactly.
Yes. Maybe someone who actually thinks he is a toaster. Maybe the toaster wrote it. Who knows? Anyway.
Anyway, Phoenix, do you have a question for Jammer?
Actually, I do. I was sitting here listening to some things. So, excuse me, Jammer. So, with you being a gamer, especially on your channel, for new and upcoming gamers, what is some strong advice you can offer to help them succeed?
Yes. I've sort of kept like an idealized version of what I want to be in my head and try to make sure to aim for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's general advice to give. Like, try not so much to put yourself down, but try to set yourself a goal that is that you can see yourself attaining, and then try to work your way through that. And as someone who's not and while I sound talkative right now and sound pretty confident, I've not always been like this. Someone who's had social anxiety in the past, I understand that there is like a huge barrier in terms of trying to put yourself out there. But I think in order to kind of slowly peel away that sort of like anxiety when you're trying to play, especially out in the public, when you're trying to stream, just be yourself. Just do what you love to do. Set yourself reasonable goals without necessarily killing your mental state or kicking up your anxiety. I understand that's not exactly easy, right? But those are the struggles you kind of have to do as a content creator.
Well, then that leads me into the next question then. When it comes to your gaming style, such as your channel, what are your biggest strengths and weaknesses? Maybe that might help the new and upcoming gamers.
I mean, I haven't been doing this for that long, at least since last May. And which, for the record, everybody, I am a VTuber. So if you guys go to my stream, I am a anime-looking man with glasses that has a green tie. And so part of that is sort of like, I kind of want to be a VTuber because I don't really want to show my face. I don't think that's necessarily like appropriate. And I would imagine some people listening may find some sympathy for that. Obviously, other creators are not like that. They're probably fine with showing their face. I guess it sort of depends on them.
Mm-hmm.
But oh shoot, what was the question again? I feel like I went on a tangent.
When it comes to like your gaming style, what are your biggest strengths and weaknesses? Like whenever you're on a stream or whenever you're playing a game or, whenever you're recording something for your channel, what are your biggest strengths and weaknesses when it comes to that?
I'd say my strengths would be my ability. I don't want to brag, I guess.
Oh, by all means,
tried-
go ahead. You're the guest. Brag.
Yes.
You're the
I
guest.
try. I try to be witty, in some way. And I try to make sure that I'm connecting with the audience, even though I don't really know them. If they're like saying memes in the chat, for example, or like saying some sort of thing, I try to connect with that and try to stick to that, so that way they understand that, okay, they understand me, they understand my humor, and that will ensure people would come to your channel, right, in the future, right? Because it feels like you're not just there to be like, oh hi, I'm playing this game. Oh yeah, hi chat, how you doing? Like I try to be a little bit more interactive.
Nice.
Obviously, I'm a fairly new streamer, and so my streams are usually dominated by like 1, 2, or 3 people in chat, sometimes even more than that. And and of course I'm grateful for that, right? But that also leads to sort of like I guess my weakness would sort of be like my inability to sometimes stray from topics, right? Like I'm sometimes talking about something and then a scare happens in game and then I forgot what I was talking. I'm sure a lot of horror content creators have a similar thing, and I kind of struggle with that. It's like, oh, I forgot. Okay, and now my audience is sort of like left in the air, and because I forgot, I'm not addressing that. Obviously dead air is an issue.
Right.
I try to do what I can to try to fill in that dead air, but especially when there's not a lot of interaction in chat, and believe me, there are a lot of times where there are a lot of streams that I've done where there aren't a lot of viewers, there aren't a lot of chat, and so as a result, you get dead air, and that starts to become a fulfilling prophecy of like, oh, if you're not talking, that means less people are coming, and right. So for me, this is all still a learning experience, but I tend to try my best to be as interactive with the chat as possible, and just be yourself, right? Like I don't want to just be like this overly yelling gamer that, you know, a lot of horror gaming content creators typically do, right?
Yes.
You know,
they scream throughout their entire stream.
yeah, you're right. They scream their entire diaphragm away. Their thumbnails include their mouth open, like massively with a monster behind them, and then you know, and then that gets like views and but well, that's on YouTube. To be fair, on Twitch you don't necessarily have that thumbnail thing, but I think that in order to get that trust of the viewer, you're sort of like getting into that experience. When you're playing a horror game, it's an experience for not just you but for the viewers. You're being scared along with your viewers, right? While at the same time, that's also entertainment for them. They're also with you in that experience, and I think that's
So do you believe interaction or the actual gameplay itself is more important to the viewer when they're watching you stream, or is it a little bit of both?
I'd say it's a little bit of both, right? But I would lean honestly more into the interaction, because if the interaction isn't there, then I still struggle with this.
I agree.
It's very hard to try to fill in the dead air if there's no one talking.
Right.
So, and obviously the advantages of a horror game is that there's always a scare around the corner, and so you yell and then you say all these things, and that means that's content, right? Because people like getting scared, right? But that in and of itself is not enough. You got to have that interaction that comes with that.
Now, when you're doing the actual horror game itself, do you just specifically talk about the game, or do you talk about other things in life, like what you did for the day or something of the sort?
I tend to talk more about my game. Like
Okay.
usually I try to like on occasion like say, oh, this is what happened to me today, but that's not really my main forte. I try to focus on the game and sort of conversations that are happening in chat. And so that's sort of like my play style.
I know a lot of channels, they like to sit and talk
Fascinating.
about themselves and talk about their day and all this stuff. And some of them actually forget to get back to speaking about the game. So in my opinion, I agree with you, talk about the game more than you talk about your personal life. Because to be honest, that'll turn people off. You're not interacting with them, judging by the game you're playing.
Oh, right.
Right.
It's because, I gave my answer there for that is simply because I don't think my
Right.
life is that interesting. So it's not really exactly like I'm like 100% like, this is what I did for today. And I guess that's part of like the course of like being a VTuber, unless you want to come up with a huge alternative persona alongside that VTuber, which I kind of sort of play into that, but most of the time I'm just playing as myself. I just happen to have a VTuber, but I understand there are a lot of other VTubers that have a different persona than their real life thing. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wendigo, what about you?
All right, this is more of
Okay.
a more funnier question, Happy Jammer. But if you could be any fictional horror movie killer, who would it be and why? And who would be your first victim? You can be anybody.
Or you can be one of your favorite horror game characters.
Yes, that is a bit. Yeah, that's the thing. I was never really exposed to a lot of horror prior to me being exposed to like Markiplier and then SCP and all that. Because outside of that, that's really it. I've never really watched that much horror movies. Mainly because I sort of grew up in a household that sort of like shunned those kind of things. Like, oh, that's not moral. You shouldn't watch. Or even Halloween. It's like, oh, it's not Halloween. It's fall festival or whatever. So
Right.
so I sort of like grew up in sort of that environment, and I was never really exposed to that. So unfortunately, I didn't
Right.
watch really any movies. But I'd say
So
in
we'll go with
terms
your
of
favorite video game killer.
right, video games.
Yes.
There aren't really like killers per se. I would say if you want to say
Dylan.
I'd say like just I'll expand this sort of. If I want to be an SCP, and who would be my first victim? 049. SCP-049, the Plague Doctor. I think honestly he would be fun. I think he would be fun to be an SCP because his article is sort of interesting. It sort of delves into like the historical context of like the Black Plague and like how plague doctors at the time wore with their mask and stuff. And I think from a historical perspective, as like a historical junkie, I find that kind of fascinating. And so I think that would be cool. If I was 049, yeah, I would certainly. Now, what was the second part of the question regarding that?
Who would be your first victim and why?
Oh God.
Oh.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could think of somebody.
Yeah, okay, but here's the thing. It's like it's like yes, I'm a menacing SCP that's breached containment, and my first victim would be I don't want to kill anyone because I'm a saint, you know. I honestly can't think of one.
A D-class.
Oh God.
I was about to mention one of the doctors, mainly one who technically can't be killed, but I mean, you can kill his body. Can't kill his consciousness, technically.
I remember the Dr. Gerald.
No, talk about Dr. Jack Bright.
Dr. Bright. That's right. Okay. I thought we were talking about Gerald, that's another SCP. That's SCP-666J, which is essentially a doctor named Gerald, who apparently anything that he rides turns into a fiery hellhole, Go. I'm not kidding. That's what the SCP is. Go search SCP-666J. That's what it is. And it's hilarious.
Oh,
But
God.
but let's say, yeah, if 049 tried to kill Dr. Gerald, like that would be a hell of a that would be a hell of an essay to write. But I honestly don't know. I really can't give you an answer. I'm just, I guess I'm being apolitical and not giving you any one that I want to kill. So that, yeah.
That's
You're
perfectly
fine.
fine. That's perfectly fine too.
So I'm going to throw you another curveball. So, out of all your horror games that you played, which part of that video game would you, if you could write a chapter of your life as a video game or a scene in a video game, which chapter would that be and why?
If I were to write a chapter based off of myself in a scene in a video game,
Yes, in a horror video game, which one would it be and why?
oh God, so now I do mainly SCPs and SCP games, right? And I think there's a lot of things to be written about those. But I think an interesting scene for me to be writing myself in is this. I'm sure you guys have heard of this game because it's been played a lot. It's called The Mortuary Assistant. I played that once on stream, and I'm highly reluctant to play it again. Because The Mortuary Assistant is not, SCP breach containment, let's run from 173, break his neck. No, it's not that. It's exorcisms of dead bodies that you have to embalm before the demon possesses you. It's like that is a different world of horror that I'm used to, and honestly, that's like probably the most scared I've been on stream. That game is something else, man. So I think that would be interesting for me to write every single waking moment of every single sentence of me essentially pissing my pants while I'm embalming this corpse in front of me, where at any moment I could be possessed by the demon or some sort of that will be an interesting thing to write about. And in all likelihood, it would be part of my whatever the statements you do after my will and testament or whatever, because we all know what's gonna happen next after me trying to embalm bodies filled with demons at night.
Wow, I like that.
I
Trying to embalm.
I have another question for you,
Yeah.
simply because you're extremely unique. This is for Jammer, of course. Do you collect
Yes.
anything? And if so, what item would you say is your most unique item that you collect?
So I guess these are two-pronged questions. So I don't really collect really anything these days, but when I was a kid, I used to collect Hot Wheel cars.
Nice. So did I.
Yes. And I still have a collection of them in my drawer. I think I have like 50 cars or something like that, and I've been collecting them since I was 6 years old.
Still in the original. In the original.
So these, no, they were all open because I was a kid. I wanted to play with cars, right? But because at the time I was sort of like obsessed with cars, and I've played games like Need for Speed and and that sort of thing. Obviously, I'm not doing like racing games or car games anymore, but that's what I was interested in back in the day. One of the perks of being in the autistic spectrum is you're for some reason super obsessed with this one thing, and then a few months later you're obsessed with different things, right? And one of those phases was me collecting Hot Wheel cars, where I have I believe 50 of them sitting in my drawer. But I don't collect them anymore. So there's that. And again, the most unique item that I have.
Mhm.
I don't know if I have a unique item. If I would say like, okay, this is sort of going on in a tangent. I've been doing SCP modding because I've made mods for. Actually, okay, this is a cop-out answer. My most unique item that I have is not a physical item. It's a mod that I made, which I consider my magnum opus, even though in hindsight, it's not exactly the best thing to play because there's a lot of issues with it in terms of the playability. But I consider it a magnum opus of mine because it's sort of what really got me into like modding and trying to think about what constitutes horror and what constitutes people getting legitimately scared of things. And that is the SCP-087B mod that I made for Containment Breach. Now this is again another tangent because I have to explain what SCP-087B is. So SCP-087B is a game made by the same creator who made SCP Containment Breach.
Nice. Okay.
And all it is you are in a endless stairwell going down, and monsters pop up every now and then. And if you get caught by these monsters, you're dead. And there is a way to win it. You have to get all the way to floor 200 plus or something. It's an insane number. I've never beaten it myself because I'm ain't nobody got time for that. But but let's say but that's basically the premise of the game, and it is based off of the actual SCP-087, which is called the Stairwell, right? Mm-hmm. And SCP-087B is sort of a deviation from that was made by the creator of SCP Containment Breach. Now, fast forward around 10 years ago, I made a mod because at the time SCP mods were pretty popular, and to some extent they are still popular now. But back in the day, people were making mods for SCP, Slender mod, My Little Pony, and that sort of thing. Yes, there is a My Little Pony SCP Containment Breach mod. It's fascinating. So I made the 087B mod in part because I was sort of caught into, like, I was a big fan of Markiplier at the time, and I was sort of like putting into my mind all the horror indie games that I remembered at the time, Slender, Five Nights at Freddy's, Amnesia, and just put it all in one mod and then put in SCP Containment Breach. And that's what SCP-087B was. The 087B mod was. It was sort of like a tribute to like the horror genre. At least I remember at the time. So I took some assets from Amnesia, Slender, various Jeff the Killer indie games, that sort of thing. And of course 087B. That's why I called it 087B mod. And it's basically playing regular Containment Breach, but it's much darker. Mm-hmm. The enemies are faster. The fog distance is way worse. And things are way louder. And I think probably my most proud implementation of that mod was I changed one of the SCPs. So if you guys don't know, in Containment Breach, there is an SCP called 1025, SCP-1025, which is a book of common diseases. And obviously it matches with the document, and in game, when you open this book, it gives you a randomized page of a disease. And if you read it, you catch the disease, right? So that's how it works in game in the original. In my mod, I replaced it with, instead of a book of diseases, it's a book of Slender. So when you open it, it's the Slender from the 8 pages, and then the moment you open it, it summons Slenderman in the game.
Ew.
It's and to some extent, I'm still proud of how I managed to mod that and put it all together. But in hindsight, the coding was kind of sloppy and its implementation is kind of wonky. But you know what? I like it. SCP-087B mod? Yes. I'm sorry?
It's the learning curve. Hey.
Yeah, it is a learning curve. And although I'm not necessarily modding anymore, I owe a lot of my interest in horror through the process of making the game, of making the mod, because I wouldn't have got to meet all sorts of people within the SCP community, the SCP modding community, especially the gaming community. And for that, I'm eternally grateful for.
Now, while we're on the topic of horror and things of characters like Slender Man, here's a question for you: do you believe in the paranormal? And of course, it's spooky season, so hey, do you believe in it?
And I was gonna add on to this. And if you do, have you had an experience?
Ooh, good one.
Ooh,
Good one.
Prepare disappointment. No, I do not believe in the supernatural. It's sort of like a complicated answer. It mainly has to do with sort of like my religious upbringing as a kid, and I've sort of wandered off from that. But I think that when people, but here's the funny thing: it's like, while I don't necessarily believe myself that there is a supernatural things in the supernatural, I think when people say they experience something supernatural, I believe them, because that's what they saw, right? And the way it's sort of been explained, right? Sometimes it's not a perfect explanation, but I sort of buy this. It's sort of like the idea of like, a traumatic experience happened to this person, either a close loved one or someone tragically passed, and then what happens is that in their grief they see that person who just died, and it's like, wait, you just died, but they're there, right? And I think that's a real experience, because it's like you're in that sense of grief where it's to the point where you can have that vision or that experience that you believe that they were there, right? And I think to some extent that explains that phenomenon of of people's close loved ones seeing their dead loved ones after they died. But this, I think this probably explains tons of other things. If you are, for example, going into town, you have no real experience of going to this town. This town happens to be haunted. And there's like a house that's like super haunted, and the people of the town are telling you, oh my god, this, if you don't go in that house, that is haunted, and it's haunted by this the lady in white or the lady in red who is going around and roaming. And then as a new guy, you're thinking, oh, this is ridiculous, this is weird, but you go anyway, and you think, okay, it doesn't really matter. But you're thinking, like, even though you're probably dismissing this, you're probably thinking in your head all the things they told you, right? And all of a sudden you get anxious, you get nervous, you get chills, right?
Yeah, of course.
And in that environment, you see it. You see the red lady because it's already told you in your head, right? So this is an hypothesis. It's sort of like my opinion. You guys don't necessarily have to agree with me, but
hey, we all have opinions. It's fine. Yeah.
Yes. But I can imagine that a lot of ghost sightings that have happened, throughout, can be explained by this phenomenon. It's like it's sort of like cycle of legends and stories that people tell each other, and then they experience that themselves as a manifestation of what they've been told, right? Especially in the context of horror and ghosts, that's terrifying, right? Similar to the terrifying prospect of someone dying, you could see a ghost. You could see a ghost and legitimately believe it's there. So, that's sort of like my opinion on that. Apologies for disappointment there, but
No, you
I
don't.
watched
You
the
don't.
ghost.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I watched a ghost hang himself.
and I had an encounter with something that I don't know what it was, but there was no windows open or anything, but yet this thing was slamming the door like it was nothing. And my cousin went to shut the door. For context, the door had no doorknob. Whatever this was yanked the door out of his hand and it peeled some of his skin off.
This was probably Michael Myers. Who knows?
If it was Michael Myers.
Oh, it's just Michael Myers. No big deal. Yeah. You just peeled the skin off.
That sounds like something he'd do.
I'm disturbed.
Okay, we got a question from Director Void. For you, Jammer. Would you
Actually,
ever...
Wendigo, there was one right before Director. Sorry, Director. There
Was
was
there?
one. Yes, from P.
Was there?
Demon.
Oh.
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, I see it now. Jammer, do you like ice cream sandwiches? And this is from Demon.
Yes. 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 I love ice cream and ice cream sandwiches. But I'm sort of like in the boring camp. Vanilla is my favorite. And if you give me two chocolate chip cookies, just nice good chocolate chip cookies with big chunks, right, of chocolate, and then in the middle is,
a chip witch.
and in the middle is obviously of nice vanilla ice cream. That's the best. Like that is the best.
Yep, a chip witch. That's what they're called.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know they had a
Yep.
name.
Yeah,
Alright.
they make them pre-made in the store. So, I have a question for you. You've been a bad boy jammer, and we want to know what crime you did to get on death row, what your last meal would be, and what your method of execution would be.
Ooh, good one.
Ooh, alrighty. I'd say I am. Okay, let's say that I decided to do the impossible and leak the SCP Foundation's existence, and then I got arrested for that.
Oh.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Ooh.
I leaked the SCP Foundation exists. The UN or whatever whoever arrests me puts me in the tribunal, and then I get sentenced to death, right? So my last meal would be ice cream sandwiches. Why not? We just talk about ice cream sandwiches. Sure, ice cream sandwich. And then method of
your last meal.
yes, that will literally be my last meal.
Nice.
And my method of execution would be, you know what? My crime is leaking SCP Foundation documents. I'd probably be a Class D. So I'd probably just say like, can you just put me in 173's room and I'll just blink. Yeah, and that will be and that will be the end of it. That will be.
So
That is so cool.
Azarin Fox in the chat says, bad jammer to the Femur Breaker with you.
Oh god, the Femur Breaker. Oh god. I'm pretty sure you guys know what that is. You guys know what that is?
No.
Okay.
That is
All right.
funny.
Explain away.
All right. So in the game, there is an SCP called SCP-106. Some people call it Radical Larry or Larry or and it's essentially a humanoid figure that walks through walls and corrodes anything that it touches. And when you're caught by 106, it takes you to its pocket dimension, which is its dwelling, its home, and you're forced to bow down and that sort of thing. And the way in the game, it's sort of portrayed the same way, right? But funny enough, it was slightly off topic. The image for SCP-106's image is an edited version of a photo of a World War I soldier. So, if you go to the website, if you go to the SCP-106's page, it's literally an edited version of World War I soldier. And so the game, SCP Containment Breach sort of plays into that. So when you are caught in his pocket dimension, eventually after several rendezvous throughout his realm, you get into a trench-like place, like literally World War I-esque trenches, where you're forced to stare at. You're basically forced to look at like a winged figure in the air that makes you slowly bleed to death as you're crawling in the trenches, in these trenches made by this SCP, and then you
That's
keep bleeding
disturbing.
slowly until you die.
That is disturbing.
Yeah, that is incredibly disturbing, and that's why y'all should play. Go download SCP Containment Breach. It's amazing. But so obviously in the context, Containment Breach in that game, he's breach containment. So there is a way to contain him. So in game, there is in the middle part of the game, there is 106's containment chamber, and you as the player have the option to contain 106. And so how do you contain this person? It's a breach containment. Well, there's a class D that is inside 106's chamber, strapped to a torture device that's called the Femur Breaker. You can probably guess what it does.
Yes.
So what happens is, so the idea is when you break this class D's femur, its screams of anguish would attract 106 back into its chamber.
Wow.
Right? So you as the player, pretend because in SCP Containment Breach, you're playing as an escape class D yourself. You have to go down, if you want to avoid 106 for the rest of the game, you have to go to its containment chamber. You have to, and you have to lure 106 in. So you press the button, just with a push of a button, not even a humanity to it. Just press a button. This guy's femur breaks, and you have an entire minute of screams and moaning in the intercom.
Good Lord.
That attracts 106. 106 gets 106 tries to get this person who got his femur broken back to his pocket dimension, and that's your cue to recontain him by turning on the magnetic shield that keeps him inside. And that's how you contain 106 in Containment Breach, is by literally essentially sacrificing one's life at the expense of to save yourself, right? And to contain it.
That's really awesome. We do have a question
except
from
for the femur
Director Void. Right. We have a question from Director Void Wendigo, and a question from the Nevermore Collective.
Nevermore Collective, yes.
All right.
Director Void,
And we have one from Director Void.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jammer, this is from Director Void. Would you ever walk through an old library for 10 minutes with nothing but a candlelight?
Sure. Sure. I would be a bit freaked out, but I would do it.
I would too.
What would freak you out about that?
I mean, it's dark, so.
Are you scared of the dark? Or maybe it's
yes,
yes
and no.
Okay.
I think it's really more of a sense of being alone. It's probably that's probably the root of that fear more than anything. If there was someone with me there, I'd be totally fine, right? But I presume you'll be alone in here,
Exactly.
so that would probably explain the fear really, but more than just being dark. But I like the idea of an old library archive. I could, I could find the long lost national secrets of the founding of the U.S. or something in there. Maybe it's worth finding the lost gospel or something like something that I could find in an old library like that. I think really for more educational reasons, I would like to be there.
Director responded with, "I feel you, man. I'd be the same way." So that was his response to your question.
And
so
from the Nevermore.
Nevermore Collective. It's a personal question to Jammer. If you were put in containment breach in real life, how long would you survive?
Presuming we're containment breach. So obviously in the Foundation, there's not one facility, right? Like if you played containment breach, you get the impression that it's all in one facility. It's wrong. There are multiple facilities around the world done for different purposes to contain different SCPs, right? So not every containment breach is going to be equal. But assuming that the SCP Foundation exists in real life and the events of a containment breach as it happens in SCP Containment Breach the game is what the scenario is, which I presume what the question is about, then I probably wouldn't last that long.
Probably me neither.
Maybe I could get away from 173, but mainly because all it is like you're just staring at it, just don't blink. Although that's not exactly easy, it's something you can get away with. But when you're getting into, 106, dragging into his pocket dimension of trenches, or 096, oh god, that's a whole different conversation. 096, if you stare at its face, you're fucked forever. You're done. It's over. You turn into a mesh of meat that isn't even recognizable.
Yeah.
049, who is also in the game, he'll turn you into a zombie. There are all these things that could happen in a containment breach, assuming that that's the scenario. I probably wouldn't last that long. And even then, if I managed to survive, that probably would not work out for me because I'm a Class D, right? But assuming I'm a Class D, I'd probably get shot at by Foundation personnel who are there to try to recontain the SCPs. So if I was a Class D, then that would be the additional prospect of being shot by Foundation personnel. If I wasn't a Class D, because I guess that I presume that could be a scenario. Let's say I wasn't a Class D, then in that case I could survive, but that's presuming that I'm a member of the Foundation, and me being a member of Foundation means I have some level of training. I have some level of way to handle a containment breach. But if it's just me myself, I don't know if I could survive. Like, let alone the first few seconds. Like, because at the very beginning of containment breach, it's 173 breaching containment. I don't know if I would have the exact mind or the same sort of mental state of me just calmly walking backwards. Because that's what I would do every time I played. It's like I'm just calmly walking backwards. I probably would not be doing that in real life. I would probably turn around, and that would lead to me, getting my neck snapped. So
I have one last question for you, at least for myself.
Yes.
Maybe just going back to whatever. What is your favorite conspiracy theory?
Conspiracy theory.
Throw you for a loop there.
Oh God. Conspiracy theory. It's not really I mean,
oh, he's
I don't know.
stumped.
Yeah. I am kind of stumped. I kind of want to know. I don't know, for this sort of like a cop-out answer, but if like I've sort of like wondered for like the longest time, like because I've sort of been interested in like theology for some reason, because a lot of things that I like to read about is folklore. So a lot of folklore I like, mythology, and religious and theology, because to some extent a lot of horror stems from some form of religious belief, right? The concept of the Wendigo, for example, right, your namesake, is from a Native American religious belief and concept. So, and in many cases, certain horror topics are sort of based off of religious imagery, right? The idea of like demons and Hades and hell. These are all from like mythology or religious kind of notions, even though these days they're not necessarily tied to that, but it is connected. I've always wondered to what extent has I'll say it, like, to what extent has the church, right, the Christian church, sort of like played down certain aspects of early Christian belief at the expense of the current Orthodox teaching, right? This isn't really more of a conspiracy; it's more of sort of like a historical question, and I think that's sort of fascinating to answer because, like, if you read the history, like, I'm sorry.
Oh no, continue. It's just we can't go off too much on religion, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's sort of like an interesting situation where it's not exactly like, is it really something there or not?
So as we're coming almost to a close here, we do have a question that just came in from Midnight Chills Horror Narrations. It says, "Hey Jammer, have you seen the 1471 short film that was released recently on the Revolver Pictures channel?"
I have not. I'm not entirely sure. What is it? Oh, is this the SCP 1471? Or is this just 471?
What do you say?
Because I think I've heard that before. Oh, okay. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, it's the Mallow SCP. Oh God.
SCP 1471. Yes. Midnight.
Oh God.
Isn't that?
I have not seen that video, but I know very well 1471. Okay. I had my memory refreshed there. I'm sorry.
Isn't 1471 the app, the SCP app?
Yes. And it's unnerving.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that's like I think if I remember incorrectly, like you start getting text messages from it, and then you start seeing the actual creature. Like later on, you start seeing either photos of the creature or something.
Right. Photos of the creature initially, and then you see manifestations of it in real life, and then you see it actually in real life. And you know how that story ends. So yeah, it's a good read. SCP 1471. I do want to watch that though. I would like a link.
Midnight says it's very well produced.
Awesome. That means I'm gonna be quaking in my boots watching that.
Okay. There you go, Midnight.
No, because that kind of horror is like borderline terrifying because it's not like Containment Breach or Amnesia where there's an objective, you have to get to the end of the room and that's it. Just walk, right? But here it's sort of like you're doing normal tasks while there's this horror thing in the background. There's always this thing in the background and it seeps slowly. And that gives you a sense of dread. And I think that's more terrifying than like just being in a generic dark room with a monster. You know, at least from a video game perspective. Obviously, in real life, me being in a dark room with a monster, I would probably still be scared of that.
That monster would probably be in that library, which is why you wouldn't walk through it.
Oh God, yeah,
right. Be my luck. Be my luck.
Yeah, Mama. Yeah, I would think like, why would a monster be in an old library archive? Does it like to eat? Is it a giant moth that eats paper? Is that why?
Maybe, or it could be the bookkeeper. It sounds like a good horror movie right there.
Right?
Yeah.
The bookkeeper. There we go.
Yeah, or maybe
a title for a story.
Yes.
or maybe a giant ass worm. Who knows? Like.
Oh, hey, bookworm.
Yeah.
Hey. That gives me a story idea. Thank you for that, Jammer.
Oh, we just both got a story idea.
Hey, if I end up writing that, I'm going to dedicate it to you, Jammer. I'm going to dedicate that one to you.
A giant ass worm.
Do it.
He's gonna be the main character, afraid to death, walking through this library because of a big ass worm.
What was my title?
What-
The book. What? What was my title?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would have to rewind this and come up with the title again because it was the
Oh,
book something. The keeper of the book or something. I don't know.
Keeper of the book. You know what the whole library scenario reminds me of? Sort of going off to a tangent. I don't know if you guys watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. You guys haven't watched that show.
I've seen the movie, not the show.
No.
Oh, the movie. Oh god. The movie doesn't exist. All right, moving on. In the show, in the show, there's a scene where the Avatar and Katara and the gang, they're all in the desert, right? They're trying to find evidence of they're trying to find like astronomical information in order to stop the Fire Lord. So they stumble upon this ancient library that is buried in the desert, right? And it's sort of like an ancient old library, right? It's just buried in the sand in the desert, but it's not a worm. Instead, what is watching over the library is a thing that eats worms, specifically a giant owl.
Wow.
And no, you may think, oh, owls are kind of cute. They're kind of menacing with their eyes, but they're kind of cute. But this one is like it stares at you. It's like, and it talks like it speaks. And for some reason, that always sort of unnerved me watching that as a kid, because I know it's just a talking owl that's big, but it's like they portrayed it in a way that's sort of unsettling. Where it's like, what are you doing? You're looking at my looking at my collection. Like it's incredibly unnerving. I don't know if you guys have any idea what I'm talking about in chat, but that was a moment in that show, out of many moments.
Director says, Director Void says, or it's like his Void archives.
Right.
What are the Void archives? Am I?
Oh, that's.
We'll have to have we'll have to have a VC with them, and he can better explain it.
We'll have to get.
All right.
What I could do is I can invite you to my server after this, and if you want, we can all meet up, and he can explain what his entire character's about.
So, Jammer.
Yes.
Is there a horror gamer that you haven't collabed with but have always wanted to, or not collab but play a game with?
I've never really thought about that question, mainly because it's like
Okay.
it's such a far off thing, and again, I'm relatively new to this, so I haven't. I probably should, but I probably should get to know other like small horror content creators. For one thing, I've gotten to know Azarine Fox. She's also a horror content creator, and she's great. And we're actually gonna.
She's amazing.
Yes, we're gonna do a podcast together on Saturday, so that's gonna be cool. So I guess that would be the answer, because we haven't collabed before, and that would be this Saturday. But other than I really haven't really thought about it, mainly because it's like, I'm just mainly trying to focus on trying to build up my my channel, my Twitch, and
Right.
and I got into it for a wide variety of reasons. Like my love for SCP. I sort of saw Markiplier sort of like a model for that, but also like the VTuber phenomenon was sort of popping off, right? Obviously, people on YouTube watching VTubers and VTuber clips and stuff. And I was like, I could do that too, because it's finally like an avenue where I could feel like that I am expressing myself and my reactions without necessarily showing my face. And I think that's great. And so, yeah, that's really more of a cop-out answer. I haven't really thought about the question.
No, you answered it, and it's not really a cop out. I thought it was a very good answer. So,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
I try
you're
my
welcome. So, if you were to pass away tonight, who would you want to read your eulogy? Could be anybody.
best.
He's got him stumped.
What was the question again?
Sorry. If you were to pass away tonight, who would you want to read your eulogy?
If I passed away, who would read my eulogy?
Yes. Could be anybody, dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
Yep, dead or alive.
Yeah, I want it, dead or alive. God, these are supposed to be easy questions, but I get stumped every time. Oh my god.
Okay.
I am.
We can skip.
Yeah, because there's like so many
Okay.
there's so many people.
So
Yeah,
Wendigo has an announcement. Wendigo has an announcement here, guys.
We are getting to the end of the live stream, so I thought I would introduce Musy to the chat. Welcome, Musy.
Musy, are you here?
You there? She's in chat, but you're muted, Musy. Oh,
yes, yeah, I know. Just my phone was, yeah. Hi, I was too busy jamming with him. Well, how about Patrick Stewart? How about Anthony Hopkins? Me. But I got into the answers. But hi everyone. How are you?
Hello, Musy.
Hello.
We
nice to
are
meet you.
good, Musy.
Yeah.
And after your
with
announcement,
your
we'll
voice,
start
guy.
closing the show down.
Hello, Musy. I just feel like I'm being stalked by a creepy but attractive stalker who's, I don't know.
That would be
Like,
me.
he sends my mind to just not good places. You know, the newest Invisible Man. That's what he would sound like. The brand new one. That's what, if he talked more. Anyway, enough. Anyway, I'm doing well. I hope you all are as well. It's been very fascinating conversation tonight.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, so am I echoing? I just want to make a brief announcement. I'm going to be back next week, or when we have the Halloween special.
The 27th, yes.
Yeah, the 27th. That's more than a week away, but neither here nor there. I just wanted to let everyone know I've been on a brief hiatus. I know many of you are already aware of that. So has Madam Raven. She's been having some computer problems. But those of you who know Madam Raven know that she's got that wonderful, sultry, temptress voice. And I was speaking to her, and I'm also trying to iron things out with Doc. But just because I've been gone, and everybody knows I usually organize the background for Doc and Friends annual Christmas or sometimes New Year's special, it is still happening. So don't give up hope. In fact, I will be giving you more information, hopefully on the 27th. If not, after everybody's done with their Halloween stuff on their own channel. And I'm going to be on my channel I have a trip to do, but I'm going to be on my channel, and I will be in the club bingo room, which a couple of you have already been invited to. It's great fun. It's all collabs, Doc Creepin MCs, and it's very easy to understand once you get the concept. I know lots of people maybe on the re-listen, or if they're still here, have been involved before, but this year we actually have you, don't we? Creepy and Phoenix?
Wendigo. Phoenix
Wendigo.
and Wendigo. Yes.
So 3 of you, yes?
Yes,
Yes.
totally. Mhm.
Yep.
Well, it's gonna be good fun. And you can start picking out stories now. But also, I have a collection of writers who also are very
yeah.
generous
Oh
for
yeah,
this.
I'm slow. I'm so sorry, Musey. Yes, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's collab bingo is what it was originally called, because you don't know who you're gonna be. You don't know. It's luck of the draw, but
Right.
it gets presented by Doc Creepin. So when it's done, it's Doc and Friends annual special, and it's hours
Okay.
of collabs, emceed and featuring Doc Creepin on his channel. So it's going to be lots of fun,
Awesome.
and it
Nice.
always is.
Sounds like
And
fun.
Madam Raven will be actually joining us, probably in spite of her brief hiatus. The only thing is, somebody has to edit. If you get matched up with somebody, you guys figure out who's gonna edit, and whatever. It's very easy, simple editing. You can add sound effects, but we always use Doc's music and Doc's visuals, so you don't have to worry about all that jazz. You just, make sure that you have permission for sound effects and get it to Doc. But yeah, you figure out who's going to edit, and bam, bing, bong, Doc will MC it and even appear in it in most cases. I don't know if he's going to
Sounds
be too busy.
amazing.
Yes, and we're having you guys. So just want to remind you, and I will be giving you dates that you have to sign up by next time I'm here.
Okay. Sounds like fun.
Thank you, Musey.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
All
Musey.
right, you
Thank
Alrighty.
guys. It's been fun chatting with you. I
You
miss
as well.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss you too.
Okay.
Thank you
bye
again. That
now.
was Musey's Modern Day Dreadfuls, everyone. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get the final words from Phoenix, Wendigo, and then Jammer, and I'll go ahead and close the show out. So let's go ahead and do our final words. Go ahead,
Okay.
Phoenix.
Who's up?
Phoenix.
Oh, okay. Thank you all so much. I appreciate being the guest tonight. Jammer, it was absolutely wonderful speaking with you. I absolutely love your personality. I loved all your answers. I just love how vivacious you are. And
Thank you.
Agree.
I hope that we have another opportunity to sit and chat sometime. And I'm not very knowledgeable on, the SCP, universe, but hopefully, you can help educate me further on that. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And thank you so much for allowing myself and everyone else to interview you. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Yes, you're welcome.
Wendigo.
All right. I would like to thank everyone in the chat for being here tonight. Jammer, I would like to thank you for joining us tonight on the show. And I would like to thank Seth for getting the show up and running. And I would like to send a thank you to Raven and Patience. And I am sending a get well to Raven. Hopefully he gets well better soon. And this was really fun.
Yes, and if I'll butt in,
you,
Raven, get
Wendigo.
better. Thank you, everyone in the chat, and thank you, Seth. Thank you so much. I forgot to say that.
Jammer. Any final words?
Again, it's an honor to be a guest in one of these things. Thank you guys so much for having me. Appreciate the conversation. and it was a great conversation. Not only talking about myself, but just
What?
trying to answer as many questions with as diverse topics as we can. Obviously, we're out of time, but I appreciate coming on. I very very much appreciate it. Even though at times, you know, it's like not exactly horror, we still had a good time talking.
Yes, we did.
And I very much appreciate that. Again, my socials are in the chat or in the video description. I have a Discord and a Twitch. I do have a YouTube, but I don't upload there, so you can look at it, but those are Minecraft vids. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. This has been a great conversation, and I appreciate it. Especially thanks to all the hosts, Wendigo, Phoenix Fire, CreepyClownGirl, and of course Seth for bringing on the stream for tonight.
Well, thank
You're
you.
very welcome,
Thank
and
you for being a part of it. Thank you.
yes, thank you. Thank you to everyone in the chat for coming. You guys are amazing. Again, a huge thank you to Raven and Patience. Raven, get better. Seth, thank you for being the man behind the yellow line tonight. Phoenix, thank you for filling in for Filia tonight. Wendigo, always thank you. Happy Jammer, awesome interview. Really enjoyed having you on tonight. Very interesting interview. So remember, next week there is no show, but join us for the 27th when we will have the Haunted Punch Bowl, our Halloween show. If you would like to be on there, please DM one of us and we can let you join us, or just join us here in the chat. Happy Jammer, you're more than welcome to join us. It is open show night. So until then, stay frightened, and remember, if you do listen, the graves always whisper, and once you join the collective, you can leave nevermore. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.